This article comes from The Independent out of the UK. It's dated March 25th of 2012, and it was written by Oliver Pickup. Hippies head for Noah's Ark. A mountain looming over a French commune, with a population of just 200, is being touted as a modern Noah's Ark when doomsday arrives, supposedly less than 9 months from now. A rapidly increasing stream of New Age believers, or esoterics as the locals call them, have descended in their camper van loads on the usually tranquil Pyrenees village of Bugarach. They believe when the apocalypse strikes on the 21st of December of this year, the aliens, waiting in their spacecraft inside Pic de Bugarach, will save all the humans nearby and beam them off to the next stage. As the cataclysmic date nears, the goings-on around the peak have become more bizarre and ritualistic. For decades, there has been a belief that Pic de Bugarach, which, at 1,230 meters, is the highest in the Cordillera mountain range, possesses an eerie power. Often called the Upside-Down Mountain, geologists think that it exploded after its formation and the top landed the wrong way up. It is thought to have inspired Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth and Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Since the 1960s, it has attracted New Agers who insist that it emits special magnetic waves. Further, rumors persist that the country's late president, François Mitterrand, was transported by helicopter onto the peak, while the Nazis and later Israel's Mossad performed mysterious digs there. Now the nearby village is awash with New Agers, who have boosted the local economy, though their naked group climbs up the peak have raised concerns as well as eyebrows. Among other oddities, some hikers have been spotted scaling the mountain carrying a ball with a golden ring, strung together by a single thread. A grizzled man wearing a white linen smock, who calls himself Jean, set up a yurt in the forest a couple years ago to prepare for the Earth's demise. Quote,
"The apocalypse we believe in is the end of a certain world and the beginning of another, a spiritual new world. The year 2012 is the end of a cycle of suffering. Bugarach is one of the major chakras of the earth, a place devoted to welcoming the energies of tomorrow."
Upwards of 100,000 people are thought to be planning a trip to the mountain, which lies 30 miles west of Perpignan, in time for the 21st of December. And opportunistic entrepreneurs are shamelessly cashing in on the phenomena. While American travel agents have been offering special one-way deals to witness the end of the world, a neighboring village, St. Paul de Fenouillet, has produced a wine to celebrate the occasion. Jean-Pierre Delord, the perplexed mayor of Bugarach, has flagged up the situation to the French authorities, requesting they scramble the army to the tiny village for fear of a mass suicide. It has also caught the attention of France's sect watchdog, Miviludes. A genial sexagenarian, Mr. Delord says,
"We've seen a huge rise in visitors. Already this year, more than 20,000 people have climbed right to the top, and last year we had 10,000 hikers, which was a significant rise on the previous 12 months. They think Pic de Bugarach is un garage à ovnis, an alien garage. The villagers are exasperated. The exaggerated importance of something which they see as completely removed from reality is bewildering. After the 21st of December, this will surely return to normal."
Masking his fears of what might happen on the 21st of December, Mr. Delord jokes that he will throw a party and supply vin chaud and cheese.
"I'm sure we will have a little fete to celebrate that we are still alive. I suppose it's up to each of us to find our own way."
When I was first sent this article, I was like, another 2012 story. I looked at it, read through it, did a preliminary search, but nothing kicked me. So the article got put aside like so many did at that time. That was over 3 months ago. I found myself returning to the article and digging a bit more each time. Methinks that the individual who sent me this article knew that would happen. Who would have thunk that one little mountain in the middle of Nowhereville, France, would have such an intriguing backstory, wrapped in intrigue and esoterica? This story is so full of interesting facts, 'tis making my earthly head spin. The list I have in front of me, items to possibly explore, include geology, eschatology, astrological alignment, Ark of the Covenant, abductions, Mossad, and Nazis. The list actually goes on and on, but for the sake of brevity, I have attempted to categorize the intrigue into groups: speculation and end times, legends and myths, esoterica, and biblical, not all of which I will be able to include in this report, but will include in my show notes. An upside-down mountain. Okay, I'll bite on that one, but not too hard. Both this article and one published via Yahoo News use this term in describing the geology of the mountain. Only problem? They are incorrect in doing so, as Stephen Shimrich, aka Hudson Valley geologist, so aptly points out.
Even though I'm completely unfamiliar with the geology of Pic de Bugarach, I do know that mountains don't erupt and flip upside down, especially ones that look like it's made of limestone and has caves. That's where the aliens live. Let's ignore the clumsy prose of the author of the Yahoo News article, and ask, how come rocks collected from the peak of Pic de Bugarach are older than the rocks collected at the base? Well, to a geologist, that would be a classic indicator of a thrust fault, a place where horizontal compressions of the crust during mountain building thrust a sheet of rock up and over younger strata. Happens all the time, and is seen in mountain belts, modern and ancient, all over the world, even on a small scale here in the Hudson Valley. So, I did some research, a Google search, and quickly learned that I was in fact correct. Pic de Bugarach is a clip, the erosional remnants of a thrust nape formed when the Alpine orogeny formed the Pyrenees. Jurassic limestone are thrust over younger Cretaceous rocks in the area. This is very similar to a place I'm a bit more familiar with, Chief Mountain in Montana. Chief Mountain is also the erosional remnants, a clip, of a thrust sheet. Anyways, it's pretty cool geology, but it's not particularly mysterious. Pictures and descriptions of these features are seen in every single undergraduate textbook which discuss geological structures and tectonics. So, just because you read it in a news article doesn't mean it's true, boys and girls. Mountains just don't leap in the air and flip over, and aliens don't live in caves under a mountain in France.
So, it's not an ancient volcano that blew its top. Dang! That sounded way cooler than a thrust fault. Now, here is where things get a wee bit sticky. We have an end times prophecy, wrapped around the Mayan long count calendar. Stuffed inside is an alleged astrological alignment. As a topping to that, we have a new archaeological finding. Unprecedented Maya mural found. Contradicts 2012 doomsday myth. I'm not sure yet if that is the whipped cream or the cherry. Hopefully no sprinkles will be added. If this gets any more convoluted, I may turn into Linda Blair. So, 3,000 years ago, the Maya developed around 15 to 20 calendars, all with a slightly different purpose. These Zolkin to calculate crop cultivation, the Hab followed the cycles of the sun, and the long count calendar ticked off the harrowing last days of... Good question. Personally, I think they ran out of room on the stone they were working on, and then they disappeared as a culture to boot. And yes, I am joking. The long count calculates a period of time known as the Great Cycle, which is about 5,125.36 years. Scholars paired up the dates of the long count with Gregorian calendars and found that the current Great Cycle began August 13th, 3114 BC. and ends on December 21st, 2012. Go figure. Very simple, really. For the ancient Maya, it was a huge celebration to make it to the end of a whole cycle. According to scholars, there is nothing in the Maya, Aztec, or ancient Mesoamerican writings to suggest that they prophesied a sudden or major change of any sort in 2012. If anything is hinted at by the new cycle, a change in human consciousness. So, how did the Mayan calendar become associated with eschatology? Well, in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Actually, it was 1502. While good old Chris Columbus was compiling Libro de los Profecia. During the voyage, he heard about the Maya. Simply put, Columbus believed that his discovery of most distant lands, and by extension the Maya themselves, was prophesied and would bring about the apocalypse. End-time fears were widespread during the early years of the Spanish conquest, as a result of popular astrological predictions in Europe of a second great flood for the year 1524. Now, fast forward to the 1990s. John Major Jenkins adds to this theory that the date coincides with a winter solstice, during which the sun will align with the center of the Milky Way galaxy.
Basically, Jenkins' theory is this. Over 2,000 years ago, the early Maya formulated a profound galactic cosmology. They saw that the sun on the winter solstice was slowly moving towards the heart of the galaxy. Naturally enough, with their uncorrupted intelligence intact, they suspected that the world would go through a transformation when the solar and the galactic planes aligned. They devised their long count calendar to target when the cosmic alignment would maximize, and that time is AD 2012. We are lucky that the brilliant skywatchers who devised the 2012 calendar left carved monuments for us to decode, and that they survived the decay of centuries so that we can know exactly what they prophesied and believed about 2012.
But, from my reading on the subject, most scholars do not believe that the Mayan were even aware of precession. This whole galactic alignment concept is based on that idea, the idea of precession of the equinoxes. Precession is caused by the Earth wobbling very slowly on its axis, shifting the position of the equinoxes and solstices 1 degree every 71.5 years. Because the sun is 1/2 of a degree wide, it will take the December solstice sun 36 years to precess through the galactic equator. Nor did it even appear that the Mayan placed any importance on the solstice or equinoxes. But I still find it fascinating, nonetheless, that these pseudoscientists, and I hate using that word, but aren't afraid to color outside the lines. But the science really must fit the facts. There are numerous other catastrophic doomsday theories in regards to the Mayan date of December 21st, 2012. Too many to list in this episode. But one point I would like to make concerns the so-called conspiracy that NASA and other government agencies here in the U.S. and worldwide are aware of the approach of Nibiru, or Planet X. In my mind, that would be one heck of a conspiracy, when you take into account the millions of amateur stargazers out there. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of Pic de Bugarach. Next week we will explore some of the legends and myths, and hopefully a little less mind-bending. Part 2 of Pic de Bugarach. As a review, we were talking of the mysterious mountain in France. Last week we talked of, or debunked in a way, the alleged upside-down theory of the mountain, and a very brief tie-in to the Mayan long-count calendar. This week we will continue. Legends and myths. A little less mind-bending, I hope. There are 2 incidences in particular that I want to focus on, but to give you an idea, the internet abounds with tales. The late President of France, François Mitterrand, being curiously heliported onto the peak, of mysterious digs conducted by the Nazis and later Mossad, the Israeli Secret Service. There is talk of the area near to the Cathar castles holding the Holy Grail, or the treasures of the Templars. A visit to Bugarach is said to have inspired Steven Spielberg in his film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, although the actual mountain he used is Devil's Tower in Wyoming. Nostradamus is said to have stayed in the area and found the vibrations of Bugarach to be positive. Others say Bugarach is where Jules Verne found the entrance and the inspiration for A Journey to the Center of the Earth. Ah, so much mystery. You gotta love it. The first incident is called the Beddix Affair. For a complete story concerning Daniel Beddix, I highly recommend that you go to philipcoppins.com, where he has an article titled The Magic Mountain. What I present here is a condensed synopsis of what he wrote. Daniel Beddix was a Swiss citizen who became enamored with southern France. Over the course of numerous visits to the region, he became interested in Cathar history, a religion destroyed by the Church during the Crusades of the 13th century. Beddix was put in contact with Lucien Julien to act as his liaison with the Cathar organization. Over the ensuing years, Beddix went through numerous files, some detailing mining activities that touched on the underground network that existed. But one document caught his attention, the mythology of the mountain, written by a university student during the Second World War. The thesis referenced several legends and myths, with some of the legends going back as early as the 15th century. It was clear that Verne was not the first to invent a mythology about this mountain, that it was many centuries older. What Beddix found was a possible link between the various myths and locations around the mountain, that for generations people were linking with an entrance to the mythical underground world. In his mind, he began to wonder if he could finally locate and reveal the entrance. Would he prove that Verne was not a science fiction writer, but had written a factual account? Was there an entrance to the center of the earth? Beddix was able to find one of the entrances listed in the account, but he found it was blocked, so he reopened it. He had taken photographs of this and other voyages into the belly of the mountain, showing them to Julien, who reported that there were several stone structures inside the underground cave system, proving that they were once inhabited, but it proved little else. One rumor that began to circulate around Beddix was that he was in fact looking for the Ark of the Covenant, and that he had now located it under Bugarach. So widespread was this rumor that Beddix caught the attention of General Moshe Dayan, the head of Israeli intelligence agency Mossad. The rumor had it that Moshe Dayan contacted Beddix personally, warning him, advising him to stop everything if he discovered the artifact, and especially not to touch anything. All through his time, Beddix maintained his contact with Lucien. He was looking for an old cavity, and speculation passed that there was a secondary access to the system from inside the basement of one of the Cathar castles. He indicated to Julien that he thought there was a connection between the inexplicable graffiti found in parts of the cave and the remains of a hearth inside the castle, and the entrance of a mining installation whose collapse had been intentional. In 1988, after stating to Julien that his research would lead to an amazing revelation and a fabulous deposit, Beddix was found dead in Bugarach. Many things have been said about the death of Beddix, but we only truly know that he died in mysterious circumstances, according to his own testimony, very close to finding his lifetime's ambition. If he did find something, he took that secret with him. In my search for more information concerning Daniel Beddix, I found it odd that no one has continued his research. Or had they? Lucien Julien planned several months after Beddix's death to continue the work on the site, using members of her research organization. She informed the Ministry of Culture of her intentions, as Beddix before had informed them of his. She had to resend her message several times before she received a laconic reply, which stated that it was out of the question that such research was carried out. Moreover, it was formally forbidden to carry out this type of work in Bugarach. She would afterwards learn that the rubble and concrete were cast inside the castle in order to block any possible cavity forever. But with the setting of the cement, the questions rose whether Bedex only found death or something else in Bugarach. Could an accidental death have such repercussions that the authorities decided to concrete the place over? France has never been a mecca of health and safety, and the circumstances of Bedex's death were nebulous enough not to imply that the precarious state of the castle had caused his death. On the surface, there was no logical reason to cement the place shut, but cement it they did. Is it possible, then, like the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, that the Ark of the Covenant is sitting in some governmental complex, hidden from all the sea? Are the alleged powers something that must remain a secret? A second intriguing incident surrounding Pic de Bugarach occurred in 2009. It's referred to as the Bugarach Mountain Incident. It occurred near Bugarach in Aude, France, October 26, 2009, at approximately 11:30 p.m. local time. The witnesses, Mr. and Mrs. Alain and Marie France, had visited the nearby site Rennes-le-Château, which overlooked the village of Bugarach in the nearby valley. They had a perfect view of the mountains, and following the advice of a friend, they began signaling at the mountains using their flashlights. They were curious due to the high amount of UFO activity and other phenomena in the region. Soon the husband, Alain, distinguishes strange lights over the mountains. These lights appeared to be projecting a beam over the grounds as if searching for something. The couple was intrigued, since the lights did not correspond with any known natural explanation. Shortly after, Alain and Marie decide to leave their observation post and use a small country road to reach their lodgings. However, they decided to stop for one last observation, and, as they exited their vehicle, they suddenly saw on the roadside a luminous entity that seemed to be moving by floating above the ground. Marie France described the appearance of the entity as a human in form and normal size. She remembered the being as not very dense, but instead very bright. The entity seemed to be encased in a very bright white light, which was not dazzling, combined with bright spots of green fluorescent. The entity's head was conical in shape. Alain could only see an armless human form, within a large ball of light moving at ground level. According to the two witnesses, the being was about 10 yards away. It was therefore clearly visible. The observation lasted about a minute, and then the entity approached the couple and suddenly disappeared in plain sight. Marie France noted that the disappearance of the entity coincided exactly with a strong feeling of fear she felt it in seeing as it approached them. A little further along the road, they saw 3 discs of light floating in waves over a nearby field. According to Marie France, the discs looked like pancakes with a hole in the center, like the rings of Saturn. The rings were flat with no apparent external structures. Alain described the device as oblong, bright, but with shades of gray. The objects moved horizontally in slow waves, like motions resembling the movements of a manta ray. According to the witnesses, the rings were several meters in diameter. The third part of the testimony of Alain and Marie France is probably the strangest. After seeing the floating discs over the field, they both go home in a state of shock. Later that night, while asleep, Marie France reports that 4 distinct thoughts crossed her mind. We are beings of light. It is dangerous for us to make direct contact with you. February 28, 2010, there will be a disaster. You have to help many people in need. Marie felt that this was some sort of telepathic message and worries about the supposed impending disaster. No specific location or extent of the disaster was ever given. Deeply intrigued by their experience, Marie France and Alain decide to return the next day to the same place that they had seen the luminous entity. Upon arriving at the location, Alon sees numerous balls of lights of all sizes hovering on the side of the road and floating near the trees. He believes that there were at least 100 of these spheres. Shortly after, he feels a strong flow of energy that seems generated by the spheres of light, that then quickly surround their vehicle. They then feel a sense of movement and chills through their back and kidney areas. Their legs are numb. The vehicle appears to be encased in some sort of energy bubble. Alon then feels that he is being prodded, and possibly undergoes a physical examination. For her part, Marie-France feels a sense of internal vibration in her body, resembling that of a very mild electrical current. The phenomena lasts a few minutes and then stops abruptly. After the encounter, both Marie and Alon's watches have malfunctioned. The site of the original article is well known for reporting mysterious events and anomalies. Bugarach Mountain is suspected of sheltering within it a giant lake that is home of an alien base. The locals frequently spot some strange moving objects over the summit, and military maneuvers prevent access to the south side of the mountain area. Magnetic fields are said to knock out mobile phones and laptops permanently. On February 27, 2010, in Chile, a powerful earthquake struck and devastated large areas and killed hundreds of people. As you can see, there is much intrigue surrounding Pic de Bugarach, so much so I could have spent another 2 to 3 hours extolling the virtues of it all.